Oops. So in this lesson, we are going to build the IK constraints here and everything to get the IK skeleton to finally be finished working. So let's do that. Let's get started. We're going to do a IK spline, clicking on the pelvis, then clicking all the way to the end of the joint. So let's group this, and that's going to be our IK, and that goes into our character group. And basically with this control, if we look in closely, what it does, it creates a curve here that has IK or CVs, and when we move the CVs, we can move the character. The only problem here is that when we want to move these sub-objects, we can't directly parent them to a control the way we have it set up here. So we have to get some way to be able to control these, so that way we can get an object to control sub-objects. So the way we do that is by creating a deformer, and we are going to create a cluster with the corresponding CV selected, and that's going to give us an object that we can actually control by the actual controller. So there should be a CV here, and I'm going to create another cluster there. And if we get in close here, we should have another CV up here. I'm going to create another cluster. So each one's going to be controlling their particular cluster. So we can name them if we want. This is going to be our chest cluster. This is going to be our pelvis cluster. And then this is going to be our spine cluster. Let's name this also. This is going to be our spine IK. Okay, so now with these clusters we can, if we select them, I am in sub-object mode for some reason. There we go. So if I take this, I can basically create a bend in the skeleton. I don't get any rotations or anything out of it, but I do get some bending and everything for that. So for this controller here, I mean, I can do a parent constraint even if, I guess you get some rotation here, but it's not. It's because I have two CVs. I'm really only interested in getting the point information, the position for that joint. So I am going to do a point constraint. So this is the target, and the object to be constrained is that cluster. So let me make sure I get in close so I can select the cluster directly. And that's going to be set up here. Constraint, and I'm going to do a point constraint, and maintain offset is on, that's fine, point constraint. So if I go here, now selecting this control, I should get the ability to move the skeleton of the character, which is exactly what we want. Now I need to do that for the top. So target, and object to be constrained is that cluster. Might be easy if we turn on our masking here, so I'm going to turn on the masking for the joints and the curves. Actually, I want to keep the curves because I want to be able to select this target, object to be constrained, and then constraint point. Let's just double check that. Cool, we're getting that movement correct. And then let's do this control and control that control vertex. So here we get this kind of movement, which is perfect. Let's group all of these clusters together, and this group is going to be called do not touch, and I'm going to put it together with the character group. And I'm going to hide this so that we don't mess with it anymore. And with the IK, same thing, I don't want to touch this anymore. So we have this curve here, and that curve is inside of the animation skeleton here. So I'm going to see if I move this into the do not touch, if that breaks anything. If not, I'm going to leave it there. It doesn't, which is perfect. That is what we want. So basically we have this constraint that's going to move the bottom. This constraint is going to move the top of the chest. This is going to move the middle. So something that is not currently working that we're going to want to make sure that we get working is rotations. So no rotation is working on any of these controls here, but we do want it to actually control it. And when we move, let's say, this controller, we want to make sure that this controller here kind of keeps the average of whatever is going on here, so that way we kind of get a smooth transition between everything. Let's set up that really quick because that's going to be kind of easy. So it's not going to be in the chest control, it's a spine control. So we have this offset here, which is what we want to control. So we're going to select this control and this control both as targets, and then we want to be able to control this offset. Going to do a constraint, and I'm going to do this as a parent constraint and make sure maintain offset is on and add. So what that will do for us now is that I still get control of the spine here without any effect, but when I move this around, you'll see that the spine will, the middle of the spine will move with the skeleton, and we can make any adjustments that we need if we need it. Rotations, it kind of does a little bit of rotations here, but I'm going to end up locking that. So when I rotate this, it's going to kind of create a half way rotation there. So it's going, the rotation is going to be driven. The spine is really just going to be a offset for it. So let's take these controls and zero them out. There we go. So in the next lesson, we're going to finish off the FK control. We're going to create the twist and the roll and make sure that everything in the spine is working the way we want it to work.